All right, guys, welcome back. Boost Come in Pairs. Busy wild card week, busy emotional week, busy all the things. But we'll get off fast here. We're gonna do a reverse quick hitters. A lot of things happening. Oakland's last game in Oakland. The Athletics are gone. I felt oddly moved by it. I felt conflicted about it. I don't like when things change. What was your reaction to seeing a team that we know is in Oakland not be there anymore?
It's going to be very, very weird to not call them the Oakland Athletics anymore. I liken it sort of to us being from Chicago and calling the Willis Tower the Sears Tower. Like
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
always gonna be, not that it's the same comparison, but it's the same thing. Like it's the Sears Tower. Like it's the Oakland Athletics. Like
yeah,
it's something that's not gonna leave the tongue very easily. But yeah, seeing highlights from the game, seeing the first pitches thrown out by Ricky Henderson, seeing the national anthem sung by Barry Zito, them bringing all these formidable
yeah,
players and personnel back was cool to see. It was cool to see the fans show out. There was almost 47,000 people there. Brings me back to when we were there in the late 2010s.
yep,
During a playoff race, during a year where they won 90, I think they won 96 games. Just powerful and awesome to see them ultimately win the game and send it off on a high note. But it's just going to be strange. There's still so much that's unknown.
yeah,
Their stadium, if the Vegas thing, I'm still not 100% clear that it's happening. I think it is, but there's some doubts. But that stadium's not going to be ready until 2028, and
yeah.
they're talking about playing games at a minor league field in Sacramento for the next 3+ years. It's just a weird thing. I don't know. I don't know how to feel either. I'm not.
Yeah,
I would say I'm a fan. I'm a fan by association. I'm a
yeah,
fan of baseball ultimately, but for them to be in that stadium since 1968 and not to be there anymore, not to be in the
yeah.
city anymore, it's just going to be weird.
It's the same as when they were talking about the Brewers maybe moving last year, and it just when you strip a team from an area, especially the Bay Area, that's lost. Again, they have the Giants, but Oakland in particular has lost the Raiders, the Warriors, and now the Athletics, and they blame the owner, which is fair. He deserves all the criticism. He did this horribly. The letter he wrote to the fans was horrible, telling the players essentially to clear the field afterwards, don't stay around. That sucked. But this is also on the fan base, and we've talked. This is the perspective that was kind of brought to me is that you stop going to games. And I know that was part of the plan, right? Fisher didn't want people to come because he wanted to move the team. He's an owner. He can do whatever he wants. It's his team. That's the reality we live in, though, as well. Is we don't own these teams. We just root for them. But you didn't show up. You didn't show up anymore, and it sucks. And I don't like to see it happen. I've liked the Athletics since that was one of my first teams that I gravitated towards. I liked Eric Burns, but it's kind of clear and obvious. You drew less than 2,000 fans a game. It seemed like, and yeah, they show up for one game, but it's not enough. But yeah, it was definitely drawing at me. It was pulling at me a little bit. I don't like the change. It's not going to roll off the tongue. I hope they keep the colors at least. It's difficult. And I would have hated it for Milwaukee too if they would have done that. I'm glad they figured it out. Again, you're a perennial playoff team. I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough situation. I don't think it's going to end well. And John Fisher can't field this team in Vegas if that's what he decides to do. So his downfall will come later. But he owns the team. He can do whatever he wants.
Right.
Their lease was up, is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second point is, Pete Rose passing away. I know we've talked about him before, just on does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Obviously, I like Pete Rose. That was, Charlie Hustle. That story. I've been to the Pete Rose Hall of Fame. Not Hall of Fame. Pete Rose Reds Museum is what it is. I guess he's kind of in the Reds Hall of Fame, but I've been there. I didn't really know he was sick. He was still signing autographs all the time. Does it even matter if he gets in the Hall of Fame now? He's not alive to enjoy it. I still think he should be in. But any Pete Rose thoughts now that he's passed on? I guess.
I mean, I'm in the camp where I don't know how you can deny the hit king.
Yeah.
The guy was a 17-time All-Star. He was part of the Big Red Machine, 3-time World Series champion. There, with especially with the way that things are today when it comes to sports betting, it's so ingrained in everything that we do now. DraftKings and the sport
the MLB.
Yes, yes, the sports books. Like people are betting on college games. And I feel like with the I liken it to the NIL stuff for college sports. Pretty similar. Pretty similar when it comes to their relation, but there was a time where you weren't allowed to accept money. It was frowned upon. It was playing for the university, and the university making all the money. That was what was happening. These athletes had no insurance policy, nothing to fall back on if they got hurt. They're the ones who are putting their bodies on the line and taking the risk. And you have guys like Reggie Bush who got in trouble, and USC, one of our favorite programs, getting in trouble, and now all of a sudden these people can do whatever they want, and they can pay whoever they want, and that's the way it goes. And he was able to get his Heisman back. USC's getting their national championship back. I'm pretty sure all the stuff is getting reinstated. And then when it comes to baseball, like Pete Rose, it is proven that he never bet on his team to lose, even though he was in a position of power. He was a manager. It was 3 years after he retired when he was caught, and he was permanent. It's a permanent ban, is what they said.
Yeah.
Those are the words that were used. I just don't think it's fair. People make mistakes. People learn from them, but there's nothing that can be proven that he was throwing games. It's not.
And I don't think that's the issue. You've taken the words. We are on the same wavelength. The comparison I was thinking was Reggie Bush. If Reggie Bush can get his Heisman back, Pete Rose can get a Hall of Fame. I think the sports betting, you can bet on every pitch of every game if you want to. If you think, William Contreras is going to hit a home run in the third inning tonight, you could do that. Like that is a legal part. However, the players, that's the only thing, is that players and managers, it's very clear do not bet on, don't bet on any sport. Honestly, if you're a baseball player or a football player, don't bet on any sports because it's a trap, right? You can easily click over and do whatever. But you're right. They sponsor the MLB. They sponsor the broadcast. Everything is built around the odds. There's so many shows about, who's got the upper odd, who's this, who's the play tonight. That's what people care about. They care about putting money on it. You have stations inside the stadiums to gamble. So in this day and age, especially since he passed along, I think probably in the next 10 years you see it happen, but it's kind of a shame, and especially now that he's passed, it's too late and it's irrelevant. But he should be in because he's one of the best players of all time. So
right, and I just think about it as he just like Reggie Bush was, and before Reggie Bush, at the SMU football team. Are these the people that you make the example of, and then everyone else follows? Like we're still. I don't think we've ever gotten any clarity or whatever about the whole Shohei Ohtani thing. They just swept that under the rug right away. I don't understand why that didn't get looked into more. There's no way that guy, his translator, was acting alone. I will say that until I am no longer breathing. I think that's going to be one of the most questioned things that we'll probably never know the answer to.
Or not. I haven't heard anyone bring it up since it happened in spring training. Like, I've heard nothing about it, and I don't know. I don't know if we will. Like the Pete Rose thing. Like Paul Giamatti was going for Pete Rose. Like he knew this was a thing. He kept going for him, and finally busted him. I'm hearing nothing. Do you know why? 'Cause he's your best player. It's just a double standard. And not to dive too much into the NIL with college football, but now it's just ridiculous. You have guys coming out. I don't know what celebrity it was or what quarterback it was. He's like, I'll pay $3 million a year to get Michigan a quarterback. This was after the last game when their quarterback is brutal. Yeah, we're not a
Oh,
football.
that was Portnoy.
Portnoy said, okay, great, but
Yeah,
like, I mean, that's the level we're at. We're essentially rigging college football. Oregon
right.
has a blank check from Nike, said go sign
Yep,
players. There's no limit. Like, so they need to regulate it, but like,
right,
it's been so far the opposite way. But same with this. It's like now it's the wild west of it. Just it's crazy.
right,
But yeah, so we'll see what baseball's reaction is because there needs to be something, right? There's got to be a reaction.
right.
Kyle Hendricks made his last Cubs start. They were kind of mulling it. It was definitely more final, like he's not coming back, which is
Hmm.
again I don't mind because he's kind of over the hill. The Cubs need to get better. They need different
Right.
starting pitching, but he's the last World Series player, Game 7 starter. He will always be those things. He's a Cub for life. I don't care if he goes pitches somewhere else. 7 1/3 shutout innings, two to go out. I mean, in Kyle Hendricks fashion, I don't even think he had 80 pitches when they pulled him, but like,
No.
just I'm kind of getting little chill bumps talking about it because it's just like it's all those good moments. He's just that guy. He probably should have won the Cy Young that year. It just
Yeah.
a lot of good feelings come to mind when you talk Kyle Hendricks. I know the last couple of years have been a little ugly, but I think it was a good send off. I think he'll be missed as a person more currently than a player right now. But Kyle Hendricks' reaction.
Hmm. Just ending on the absolute best possible note. Doing all the things that he does well, mixed speeds, fielding his position, logging innings, giving his team a chance to win. Kyle Hendricks is an ode to the OG pitcher. He's
Yep.
not out there. He's never been out there throwing 95 miles an hour. He's just always been himself the entire time. He's a smart guy, Ivy League educated,
Yep.
Dartmouth guy. Was a really good pitcher in the Rangers minor league organization until they were able to pry him. The Cubs were able to pry him away. I believe it was in the Ryan Dempster trade.
Yeah.
They got him and C.J. Edwards in the same trade.
Yep.
Two pieces that really helped them to propel themselves forward. But Kyle was just the epitome of professionalism. Great clubhouse guy, always working on his craft, always helping those younger guys around him get better. I know that they mentioned that there wasn't a guy in the clubhouse who was happier for Kyle than Tommy Hotovy. I mean, him and Tommy have worked really, really exclusively together for the past few years, gotten through some stuff. It was just really cool to see him doing what he was used to doing in that last start. I'm not sure if he'll pitch for another team. He probably will, but if he decided to just sail off into the sunset, he's had a hell of a career, and I could see him being a pitching coach one day.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
He is just he's just a master of his craft, and he could impart his knowledge on a lot of people.
Yep. I think his intention is the pitch. We'll see if anyone picks him up, but yeah, it's again. Got to move forward, got to move on, because the Cubs obviously didn't end where we want them to. Actually, they ended in the same exact place last year, and that's kind of what Jed Hoyer was talking about in his end of year press conference. That this just isn't good enough. He can say all those things. He can say, it's a reflection of him that they won 83 games 2 years in a row. What's your vote of confidence in him that he's going to do it? For me, it's minimal because he's shown that he doesn't really. I don't know if there's confrontation with Ricketts and spending, or if he's being limited, or he's not able to go for that big fish in free agency. But my confidence in Jed Hoyer is waning, and his frustration doesn't really resonate with me because he's kind of just shown that he doesn't. Not that he doesn't care, but it's just he's not going to do anything about it.
It doesn't feel like frustration at all. Like there's no tone in his voice of him being frustrated. There's no fire, at least towards the end of the season. Like I feel like we really felt Craig's frustration and his emotion come through.
Yeah.
Jed is still playing the same part.
Yeah.
He is nearing the end of his 5-year deal with the team that he signed. I believe it was after the 2016 season. So after they won the World Series, he became the president of baseball operations, or shortly after that. They had made the playoffs one time since he took over as president. I think maybe it was in 2017. I think it was
2019.
no,
I think it's
2019.
2019. He was
So
responsible for dismantling the World Series team. So
he had a 5-year deal as the GM that ran through 2019, and then he had a 5-year deal that inked him as the president of baseball operations. The only playoff appearance they have was during the COVID shortened season. They have underperformed, missed the playoffs quite a bit. Yep. We're under 500 a couple of those seasons, have had the same record 2 years in a row. I don't believe anything that he says. And I hope that even if they have a semi-decent year the next year, I hope they part ways with him. Because that's the only way you're going to send a message. They had no problem shipping Theo out, or running Theo out of town. They had no problem running Madden out of town.
Do you think Theo got ran out of town, or do you think Theo saw the writing on the wall and decided it was time to go? I think it was more of that, because I think you would keep a Theo Epstein, but as we know with Boston, it's hard to maintain that, right? He won a couple, but that is a hard standard to keep moving forward on. So I think Theo kind of saw that, hey, I did my job. This team's going to implode. I don't know where to go from here. I think you need. He was more introspective and was like, you need to make a change. But I definitely agree. I think you can't let Jed Hoyer continue. I think he's done the job that he kind of said he was going to do, which was rebuild the farm system. Okay, farm system's built. Now we need the GM to go out and build the next winner, including, do we need to trade some of these guys? Do we need to, what talent evaluation? And I think their talent evaluation's been good with Michael Busch, with, you got a Cody Bellinger on a discount deal. But who's that big guy you're going to go sign? Are you going to go get Corbin Burns? Are you going to go trade for Vladimir Guerrero? Is he capable of doing that? I don't know if Jed Hoyer is willing to give up his prospects, right? So these are the things that need to happen, and I don't have any confidence he's going to do them because he hasn't done them yet, right? He's only done the moves where it's like, okay, this guy's on a discount, and we can maybe flip him into something good. That's kind of his specialty.
Right. I guess just from looking at the team overall, we came to the conclusion that there's a lot of stationary pieces. There's a lot of pieces that are going to be there. They're on good deals. They're good players. They're just missing that spark really at all three levels. I mean, I would say 3 out of the 4 levels. I think defense, they're top notch. Yep. They play really good defense. But my 3 levels I'm speaking of are the offense, the starting pitching, and the relief pitching. Yep. There's very easy to see improvements that you could make. There are, despite there being a lot of guys who are stationary and there's moves that you can make, and there's upgrades that you can make. It might come at the expense of Michael Busch losing playing time. I think if you have the opportunity to get Vlad Guerrero Jr. and you can part with a couple prospects that probably aren't going to be superstars, I think a guy like Shaw you need to keep around, but I think Owen Casey is dispensable. I think Kevin Alcantara is dispensable. I think that Moises Ballesteros is dispensable. They have some young arms that they could possibly part with. The Toronto Blue Jays president, I think it was the president, it was somebody higher in their front office or higher in their organization, said that Vlad Guerrero Jr. is not a generational talent. He is going to remember those words, and there's no chance that he's going to be with that team. I think you need to do whatever you can to get that guy on your team. I mean, that is an impact bat, impact glove. He is somebody that you fear in a lineup.
And here's the thing: you just rattled off 5 or 6 prospects, right? And we're talking about how stationary some of these roster pieces are for the Cubs. Where do you put those prospects? You have nowhere to put them. So as of now, you need a couple. You're not going to trade all 5 of them, but establish the ones who are necessary to win on this current roster, and the ones that aren't, you use to get that piece, that one piece. Because, again, you only have one or two positions opening. None of them play catcher.
Right.
None of them are a 40 home run major league hitter yet that we know of. So you need to go get that. You need to go. I mean, I don't know how many he'd hit at Wrigley on a warm summer day, right? You might hit 50 or 60. Who knows? But you have to use those guys because they're not going to help you at the major league level because there's not enough openings for them to help you. So it's simple math. You have a surplus. Use that to go get pitching. Use that to go get hitting. Otherwise, they do you no good. You can only start 9 guys, right?
Yeah.
And you have gold gloves in 3 or 4 of the positions. So.
Yeah, and Vladdy is a guy that they'd have to trade for. He's not a free agent until 2025. I'm assuming that what they would do if they made a trade, they would do like a trade and then extend kind of thing, which is pretty common with what a lot of people do. Yeah. But if you wanted to go after an impact bat who's an unrestricted free agent, again, we don't really know who the opt-outs are going to be yet. That the Cody Bellinger opt-out conversation has continued a little bit more. So we don't know if he's going to be there. But, I mean, Soto, Alonso, Teoscar Hernandez, Alex Bregman, Anthony Santander, Christian Walker is an unrestricted free agent. That guy's a Gold Glover, and he's a powerful bat. This other guy's a little bit older, but Paul Goldschmidt could help you win for a short period of time. On the offensive end of things, there's some thunder, but I think Vladdy would send a message, and it would allow you to, not that you want to part ways with these prospects, but at the same time, like they need one or two feared bats. And I think they could do it if they could get someone in right field and they could get someone at first base, like just guys who are feared. I think that would be a good start in the right direction.
Again, it doesn't matter if you don't want to move on from these guys. Where are you going to play them? You just paid a shortstop. You have Nico Horner under control. You just acquired Paredes. Okay, Owen Casey's out. Matt Shaw's out. Or they're bench players. And then even Alcantara. Like, you have PCA. You have Cody Bellinger's going to opt in, most likely. But even if you don't, you have Ian Happ is stuck in left field. Like, you can't do anything. So, like, where are these guys going to play? They do you no good. A team like Toronto, they're in purgatory, right? That East is stacked. They could not even make a third wild card, and they weren't even close. But you're so far away from winning, and you have pushed all your chips in, right? This team is going nowhere. They're not going to retain Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They want to move him. Whatever prospects they want, 2, 3 of them, you can have it. Move on. But you have to do it for somebody. You can't just sit on these prospects and then, they get to the major league level, they didn't pan out. That does you no good. You need players now. If you want to win with this team, it's now.
And most of these guys have already played a full season or almost a full season at AAA. Like, them being in AAA is not going to benefit anybody. So I think you either need to move them up or you need to move on. Like, use them. They're good enough to play on major league rosters, on someone's major league roster. Yeah. So why not try to float some of them to a team? Like, I mean, Bichette is going to be a free agent too in 2025. So I don't think they'll have him either. They'd be smart to move him too.
If he was healthy, if Bo Bichette was healthy this year, he may have moved because the Blue Jays were out of it. They talked about it last year, and they're like, no, we're going to keep him. We're going to try this one more year. Well, this is that one more year, and I think that's why you're not going to see Bo Bichette move because he was hurt. Otherwise, I think you see kind of a retool, dismantle from the Blue Jays because they missed their window. They were in their window. It's almost like the White Sox. It shut just as fast as it was open. But
yeah, and then going away from the offense and getting more towards the pitching. Obviously, we just talked about Kyle Hendricks, so that frees up another slot in the rotation. But the Cubs really need to get 2 guys, 2 starters. One of them needs to be impact, and the other guy needs to be proven, and then rebuild the bullpen. They have ignored the bullpen for a few years now. That's been one of the biggest reasons why they're not a playoff team. When it comes to the rotation, I mean, Blake Snell's not going to opt in. He's not going to be with the Giants next year. You have Burns, and I don't think so. I don't think so. Not after he skipped his last start, too. Chose not to pitch, even though it was a game that didn't matter. But at the same time, it's like,
Maybe.
just go out there, just take the ball. If you get asked to take the ball, if it's your turn, take it. I think he's going to try to cash in big. And the Giants don't. He definitely earned it. He pitched great after that rough patch
Yeah.
when he started after not having a spring training. But I don't think the Giants have the money to offer him. They just gave Matt Chapman a bag. He earned his money. But yeah, I mean, you have got. I think Snell will opt out. Burns and Fried are free agents. Flaherty's a free agent. He's gotten his money. If he pitches well in the playoffs here, he's going to get a bag. Severino has had a pretty resurgent year, had a pretty healthy year. He's in the playoffs. He could earn himself some money. Yusei Kikuchi had a really nice second half after he got traded to Houston.
Yeah.
Bieber is going to be back at some point, coming off an injury, but someone will be intrigued by him. Garrett Cole has an opt-out clause. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees get bounced by the Royals. If that happens, maybe Garrett Cole would opt out. I don't know.
Well, regardless of whatever these guys do, make sure you show up to spring training on time. Make sure you sign early because you don't want to be, again, early season Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery.
No.
One thing we can say for the Cubs, though, is that they're not the Pirates. They're not that crummy organization that is pulling guys out or DFAing them right before their bonus. Dumbfounded. I saw them do the Rowdy Tellez thing. Again, you're out of the race. Why would you DFA somebody? I don't understand. He wasn't hurting anybody. Oh, you're going to have to pay him an extra, what, $200K? Come on, Pirates. And then the last one was Kiner Falefa, which I saw,
IKF,
the one that you sent me. And it's like,
yeah,
what are we doing? Like, you traded for the guy, you signed him, like you're extending him.
Right.
Like, why would you pull him out so he can't get a bonus? Like, what is Pittsburgh doing? You think you have Paul Skeens and now you can just like do it like, I don't know, Pirate's gonna pirate. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're further away from making the playoffs now.
That's not the way. Just like in any workplace, you're not gonna do yourself any favors by screwing people over.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Shelton, the manager, claimed to not know about the IKF thing. And I don't know if I believe him or not, but somebody knew about it. Someone chose to not put him in the lineup after he had been your starting shortstop, a starting player since he got moved.
Yeah.
He handled it about as graciously as anyone could. They interviewed him about it, and he pretty much put the blame on himself. And he even said that Shelton approached him and said, well, this has come to my attention. Would you like to be in the lineup? And he elected to say no. He said, I missed a month of the season. That was on me. And I'm going to work harder and I'm going to do my thing. And I'm going to give one of these younger guys a chance to play. So kudos to him for being bigger than the organization. But yeah, those two instances, like, if you are serious about this game, if you're serious about contending, you need to do that stuff. You need to reward guys for showing up for you, for playing for you, for staying healthy, for being part of your organization, for bringing these young guys along. If I'm any big time free agent, I see that, and I'm like, I hope Andrew McCutcheon's had some words with them. Like, listen, like, this is my legacy, and you're tarnishing it. Like, no one's going to want to play here.
Yeah. It's hard to believe the IKF story when they literally cut a guy 4 at-bats short. Who was, again, you're right, played for you all year. It wasn't like he was hitting Joey Gallo numbers, hitting 152. He was hitting fine. His production was fine. You just DFA'd him literally so you could avoid paying him a bonus. That's crummy. That sucks. So, yeah, not cool. Yeah, whatever. Another bad. Well, again, D-backs aren't a bad organization, but just another bad look. D-backs owner trashing Jordan Montgomery. We've had multiple things on Jordan Montgomery this season. His dissatisfaction with Boris, negotiating his contract. But the owner coming out essentially saying that was a trash move. And again, in the current state they're at, I'm sure they wanted to make the playoffs. I'm sure they didn't want to even be in that discussion for second wild card. If they would have just won that game where they're winning 10-0 in Milwaukee, they would be in the playoffs. But every game matters. Not a great look, though, still. I don't care about your feelings towards a player. you can't trash your team. He's on your team, and
Right.
he's probably gonna opt. Well, he might opt out now, but
Yeah,
it
I
just
don't see it happening, and I think the comments maybe have been blown a little bit out of proportion. Pretty much what he said was that move is on me. Like
yeah,
I'm the one who's responsible for bringing this to the front office's table. I told them to pursue it, and it didn't work out.
yeah,
He didn't show up. His ERA was almost 6.5. He didn't show up on time, obviously,
yeah,
and he made $25 million to do that, and he got demoted to the bullpen. Like,
yeah,
this is a guy who was the best pitcher on the World
yeah,
Series team a year before that,
yeah.
and he holds out for money. Like,
I was
it's
calling
just
for the Cubs to go get it, like, because he was the best
right,
pitcher in the postseason almost. It's
right.
just
And then he decides to not show up and mail in the season and get hammered. Like,
yeah,
I hope that I mean, there's certain things that you can say and you can't say, and should the owner have said that? Probably not. But I hope that he heard it, and I hope that
yeah,
he's motivated,
yeah.
and I hope that he has to earn the next contract because he didn't earn this one.
He earned that one based on his performance in the postseason. Um,
Right,
he is yeah he bet on himself essentially, and it did not pay off. He is not going to get a big contract. Fortunately, he has opt-ins, right? So he could just be like, yeah, I'm going to take this and
right.
move on. That's the benefit of the player opt-in. But yeah, if it was a team option, they wouldn't pick this up. Yeah,
No,
he's been bad. You're right. He's in the bullpen, and you have to keep throwing him out there, especially when you're a small market team like the Diamondbacks are, who are thriving on their young talent. Them going out and trying to get these players, they were trying to win the World Series, and you missed the
right,
playoffs by one game.
right,
I'm sorry, Jordan Montgomery had at least 10 starts during the season that just blew up. So,
right.
and
He went
then
8-7,
yeah, not what you paid
and
$25
he had a
million for.
6.23 ERA.
Not what
Like,
you paid
come
$25
on,
million for. Yeah, it's just, and if you broke it down by start, I'm sure it's bad. Again, he started the
right,
season late too. What does that cost you? I mean, overall, bad look for the Diamondbacks in terms of just the way they operate and the success they had last year. This kind of just makes it a little more murky.
yeah,
But what are you gonna do? What you're gonna do is you're gonna watch the Mets and Braves on the last day of the season play a phenomenal doubleheader. I know they were trying to well, they should have planned better for the rain. The third wild card is working so well already.
hmm
You
yeah.
think when you add another team, you dilute it a little bit,
No,
but that was just such a cool way to end the season. And yeah, if you're Arizona, you were waiting for someone to sweep the doubleheader, which is hard on its own. But yeah, once the
hmm
Mets knew they won the first game, and that first game was the game of the year.
wild. Yes,
Down 3-0, up 6-3. Down 7-6, up 8-7. Lindor with a monster home run. It's just like,
yep,
and then, yeah, you don't really have to play the second game, and then you mail it in, and they both get in the playoffs. And it's like, but I don't remember there being that fun of a last, because like they don't do 163 now. There's just tiebreakers, and there's no ties, right? You just go on to the
hmm
next round. But yeah, what a start to the third wild card for sure.
yeah, and then uh, transitioning right into the wild card round. I mean,
Yep.
these matchups have been unbelievable, and it's cool to see the outcome so far.
Yeah.
We're still waiting on one matchup between Milwaukee and the Mets,
No
but
score, sixth inning, no score. So
yeah, I mean, but just some crazy games, I guess. Like by series, so Tigers Astros, you're looking at that,
that,
and people are
yeah,
the Tigers have been an underdog for a long time. They haven't made the playoffs since 2014. This city with the Lions has just been re-energized. The sports fans and the Tigers sort of have fed off this energy, and they really started playing for each other and playing for the city. They have a
36 and
manager.
11 down the stretch.
Yeah, they have a manager who's been there before. AJ Hinch has won a World Series. Like, he knows how it
What do we
feels.
say?
So
Talent or en fuego? I think this would fall under the on fire category for sure.
right. Right. On fire, and having the best starting pitcher on the planet also helps.
Yeah, but you only have one of them. I mean,
Right.
it's like, oh yeah, what are they gonna do? Bullpen game the rest? I guess so.
Right.
And Scooble was fantastic in
He
game
is
one.
he is unbelievable. I mean, you're seeing triple digits on the radar gun. You're seeing a slider that has upwards of 94. You're seeing this nasty changeup. Like Scoobs has been doing this all year. I called it in one of the earlier episodes that I thought he was going to win the Cy Young, and he's definitely going to win the Cy Young. He's the best pitcher in baseball.
Run away.
He dismantled and he ran into a tough spot closer to the end of his outing, but Houston's top of the order is just unreal. Like they are just so good, so much experience. But
we're so used to seeing Houston just win. They get to these spots and they win, right? And this might be it. Bregman might leave. Altuve, how many more trips around is he gonna go? Alvarez was a little banged up for this. Kyle Tucker was banged up towards the end of the year. But yeah, this might be the last time you see the Astros intact with this roster, with this core. The other crazy thing was because obviously Javi Baez has been on the shelf for the entire run that they've been on since they visited Chicago. He's been out. So with that, the roster for the wild card round for Detroit, I'm sure you saw this, was $18.1 million.
Yes.
Well, Josh Hader's contract is $19 million for the year.
Right.
And he led up the series-ending run, and it's just like how fitting your entire the entire roster. That's crazy for the wild card run. You have nobody over that, but that's just again it speaks to I don't even know what Scooble's contract is, but he's going to get a bag. He'll probably get triple that for his next contract. But how cool for the Tigers to win again. The Heat outweighed the talent there for sure. And we'll see if hopefully that carries to they're playing Cleveland. So they could beat Cleveland. Cleveland is gettable.
Yeah, it's the Tigers are the best thing about them right now is that they're hot.
Yep.
And they have a lot of guys who they have nothing to lose. They have everything to gain by this. So what you have to do in the playoffs is grind out games and grind out runs, and they have a lot of grinders on this team. I wouldn't say they necessarily have a bat that anybody fears, but they have a lot of guys who are willing to do whatever they need to do to get the run in.
Yeah.
They were running the bases better than anybody in that during that stretch too. Home to first, second to home to second, like taking the extra base first to home. Like they're just doing the right things. Their bullpen is full of power arms. They have a lot of power arms. The biggest thing that I think, though, that could hold them back is they do not have strong starting pitching after Terry Skubal. Reese Olson was really good at times, but he was nursing injuries.
Well,
they did a bullpen game the last game, which, again, you can do those, but they're going to need to find some innings somewhere.
Well, that's
the thing they need to get to.
That's what happened to Arizona last year. They had Gallen and Merrill Kelly, but after those two, they felt like they didn't have anything, and ultimately that's what their demise was. But it carried them all the way to the World Series, and that might happen again. I mean, that and then the Royals winning their series. How about Baltimore? I was like, Baltimore is a year more experience, right? They'll show up this year. Gosh, you got to feel snake bit if you're that fan base. However, you need to stay the course because you have a really talented roster, and at some point you'll punch through. But it's got to sting to lose 2 years in a row in the same round and just kind of feel like you're stuck in the same place. However, win like 7 more games and don't be in this round next year. That should be your goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, that moves them. I think they've lost 10 playoff games in a row.
Yep.
So the Royals are another team. Like they were really good. They got hot. Their starting pitching is really good, especially anchored by those top two guys. Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans are phenomenal. Michael Wacha was set to go game 3 if it made it that far. Michael Wacha has had an exceptional year. His last 2 years have been exceptional. He was with the Padres last year and had a great season. They have Brady Singer, who also had a really nice year. And then they have I would argue the most valuable, multifaceted pitcher in this playoff run right now, and that's Michael Lorenzen. Michael Lorenzen pitched fantastic after he got acquired by the Royals from Texas. He was spot starting. He can give you innings. He can do a long relief outing. You always see that guy in the postseason who has like a longer relief outing that gets his team out of a jam. Lorenzen is like that Swiss Army knife pitcher in their rotation. I don't think that their bullpen is particularly strong, but they do have some solid pieces. Lucas Ursig has been great since coming over as well.
Yes.
And then you have the big three. You have Bobby Witt Jr., you have Salvi Perez, and you have Vinny Pescantino, who's coming off his fractured thumb. Getting it back just in time. That's a formidable three right there who can hit tanks and impact the game. You take Judge's insane year out of it. Bobby Witt's the best player in this game. I think, and he's proven it. I mean, he's been the surge behind this Royals power streak.
Yeah, well, and that's I hate bullpen games. You know that, especially in the playoffs, don't make any sense. But you're right. You need a guy who can get bulk outs in the playoff. Every out in the playoff is precious, right? If you can rack them up, perfect. You need the starting pitching. You need them to go longer distances, but you also need that middle guy to do that for you. You're right. Yeah, the Royals, I mean, Ursig's been great down the stretch. He wasn't getting a lot of save opportunities because they weren't winning. They lost 7 in a row almost to close out the season. The question for him in that position will be, guy's never been there before. He's pitching in Oakland before that, so hasn't pitched a lot of meaningful baseball. Can you close out games in Yankee Stadium in the playoffs in Mariano Rivera's house and keep it together? That'll be the test. That's why I say, get that big name closer. You wanted to roll this Chapman for that Cubs run because he's comfortable in those situations. We'll find out really quick. It's a 5-game series. Every game matters. If they get up, it will be interesting because bullpens play a huge role.
They do, but Josh Hader also lost yesterday. Those weren't all his runs, granted. They were Presley's runs, but at the same time, Hader gave up the hit.
You know what, though? You live with that. And Hader had a rough year. He still had almost 40 saves, though. You live with, I paid the right guy the money, right? I paid him to show up on that mound and be that guy. I'm okay with if he fails. It's when you purchase a little lower. And again, I don't think the Royals were necessarily expecting to be here this year. That's why a lot of their pieces worked out. Michael Wacha, if you'd have told me in the beginning of the year, I'd been like, good luck with that. But they've had the most remarkable turnaround in a one-year stretch. They go from 100 losses to in the playoffs and now in the division series, which is crazy.
Right.
So again, you're not expected to be here. But if you are expected to be here, you'd rather lose with the big name on the mound than lose with a guy who's never been there before and doesn't hold it together. Again, we'll see. You may see the coming out party for some of these guys, but as of now, no one has experience on Yankee Stadium soil closing out a game. So that's scary.
Right. Yeah. With that said, though, I think the Royals starting rotation, I don't think that there's a deeper, healthy 5 than what the Royals had. With the exception maybe of the Padres, who are another team that is very exciting. It's very exciting to talk about them. Playing the Braves, I wouldn't say that the Braves were particularly the favorite, but they've always been there. They're always there. Regardless of how banged up they are, they always find a way. But the Padres just showed the baseball world. I mean, they won 93 stinking games, man. They were incredible in the second half as well. I don't know their win-loss record off the top of my head, but they played really well. They played really well defensively. They pitched really well. All these acquisitions from this Juan Soto trade have really paid off for them. You get a stellar outing from Michael King, game 1, 7 innings, no runs, 12 strikeouts, slider looking nasty. And then everybody's healthy at the right time. Tatis is looking great, finally back and healthy. Merrill Kelly's or not Merrill Kelly, Jackson Merrill is going to be the rookie of the year. Insane talent in the center field. Bogarts is playing short again. Arise is hitting the ball over the ballpark. Manny Machado's throwing people out from his butt. I mean, the catching battery, especially Kyle Higashioka, like hitting 2 bombs in the series, really coming up big. They are just, I can't think of a more complete team right now, all the way through. And I mean, they're starting pitching. You got King, you have Joe, you have Musgrove, you have Darvish, you have Dylan Cease. I mean, they are so deep in that starting rotation, and then back half of that bullpen. I mean, Suarez and Adam and Scott and Hoeing and Matsui and all these guys, man. It's just it's fun to see.
My only complaint with the Padres is that I would like to see this matchup in the CS, not the DS. Yeah. I'd like to see 7 games. However, I think it does give the Padres a better chance of winning this series because you're going to have to hit, right? The Dodgers are going to hit. You know that, but their pitching sucks.
It's not good.
They have no good starters, really. Glasnow's out. Kershaw, if he is pitching, please, because we know what playoff Kershaw does. They're struggling there, but they're compensating with having the best offense in baseball, right? So I think the Padres know that going in. They're going to have to hit, even though their pitching is superior. But yeah, it'll be a fun series anyways. I'm looking forward to that one. Probably the most.
The Braves were that lineup last year though, and what happened to them? So got to be able to pitch and do the right things.
Sometimes sitting out this wild card round, like it's a long stretch to be off. You might see some rust. You might see some momentum carried over, especially for the teams that aren't expecting to be there, like the Royals and the Tigers. They have some juice going into this next round for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Brewers and Mets. We'll see who comes out of there.
Man, Game 1 was crazy, just the bouncing back and forth. And then in the 5th, the Mets finally broke through. Had the trio of Iglesias, Vientos, and Martinez knocking in runs. And then last night, looked like the Mets had it on lock, and then Jackson Chourio said, not so fast. I mean, and again, in another year, Jackson Merrill's not having the year he's having. It's a walk away for Chourio. But man, what an immense talent that guy is. The Brewers have to be very optimistic.
There's been so many good rookies this year.
Yeah,
I said Paul Skeens will probably win it just because he was so dynamic. But yeah, you're right. It's been a tough rookie of the year. But yeah, Jackson Chourio has been the Brewers' best player. It's not even close. He made a mistake in Game 1 fielding, but he's more than made up for it with his bat. It's one thing to ascend, and then what does next year bring? Is it going to be like a Corbin Carroll thing where there's a little bit of regression? You guys expect a little bit of regression, but I don't know. He's hitting the ball to all fields. He's dynamic. He's young and just
fast.
It'll be interesting how they attack him going forward. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, same thing. The momentum from this series could carry to Philadelphia, who's a more talented team. And 5-game series, you never know. It could be because Philly's pitching. Wheeler's been good, but Nola's been suspect. It's just. And then do the bats show up for Philly? That's always the question. So.
Yep. Yeah. Well, still nothings. Middle of the 7, Quintana's throwing a gem. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I mean, any other playoff thoughts? Any predictions for this round? I guess probably before the next time we talk, it'll be almost to the World Series.
Right. I mean, it's just fun. It's been a fun if this wild card round is any indication of how things are going to be, it's going to be a blast. I think all the right teams are in.
Yep.
And I think no matter who wins this matchup with the Mets and the Brewers, you're going to get a good series. There's going to be a lot of interdivisional stuff. There's going to be some David versus Goliath. There's going to be some heated interstate battles. But yeah, I mean, just kind of like last year when you don't have a horse in the race, you just want to see the best team that you possibly can win. I guess a general inclination of mine. I think that San Diego has what it takes. They're my little, not really dark horse, but I think that San Diego has what it takes to go all the way, and I will say a prayer or two for the Royals and the Tigers. It would be fun to see. There's guys on both teams that I enjoy. Obviously, the Tigers are my team in my home state right now, but it's fun. It's fun to see them doing well, knowing how the players play and who they're playing for. But yeah, just looking forward to more good baseball. Where I think we're going to be blessed again, like we were last year, with just some great matchups and great play all around.
Yeah. And I think what I want to see selfishly is I want to see a good World Series. I know it was fun to have Arizona in there last year. It was not a good World Series. Texas was far and away better than them. I'm with you there with the Padres. I think they look like they're the best team in the NL right now. Again, you go into Dodger Stadium, that could look differently, but the hunch for me is them out of the NL. So if me in my head I'm thinking that's NL, selfishly I would want to see a team like the Yankees face them. Not win. I don't want the Yankees to win anything, but I think that would be a good matchup. However, I don't think the Yankees are going to get there. They might beat the Tigers, but I don't know. AL is wide open. It's so wide open. Last year, I feel like we had a better sense of it, but maybe we just go, hey, Padres.
Right.
I'm good with Padres.
Yeah.
Because I think the NL is. I think AL is wide open. The NL has the heavy hitters in terms of teams.
Yeah.
I think if you put Philly, the Dodgers, or the Padres in there, that is a good representation for the National League.
Right. And I mean, I guess we'll see who wins Brewers Mets, because I think either of those teams could give the Phillies a fit. Just based on the things that they can do, how dynamic they both are. It'll be fun to see.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, we'll be watching. Everyone else should be watching too, because this is when baseball is the most fun. If your football team's already in the tank, because it might be over already, switch back to baseball. You got a good month ahead of you. Again, with all these wild card rounds going on, how could you not? But until next time, boots come in pairs. Take it easy.
Peace.